Jeffrey, good morning.
Uh,
How you doing, man? I mean, I know you had opening day yesterday at the
yeah.
Wesson Lawn Tennis Club. The weather was not cooperating, so the beautiful grass courts would be playable. But I'm assuming the party that you guys hosted was okay.
Yeah, I mean the weather was beautiful evening, so we had all the big sliding doors opened at the clubhouse, which opens up the whole kind of side of the building to the deck that overlooks the first three courts, banks of courts, and so
Nice.
it was a beautiful evening, and we had the grill going and food in the bar, and so it was a great opportunity. I met everybody, and I'm sure I'm going to remember 3 or 4 names out of the 50 people I met last night.
That is a skill. That is a skill. My good friend who unfortunately passed away a few months ago, Jim Swigert from Colorado.
Yeah.
This guy was a master at remembering names.
Yeah,
And I remember asking him once because he hosted every year he would have this Steamboat Springs, the Steamboat Tennis Association would have a party. I don't know what you call it, an auction, an evening auction, kind of. Well, I guess it wasn't a silent auction because he was like the auctioneer, but there was, and we went one year, and the room was, I don't know, 150 people.
Right.
and of course he'd been there for 25 years, right? So he had the 25-year thing of being able to know everybody. But at the same time, he's auctioning things off and he's pointing at people and go, all right, Jeff, I got you for 25. Brent, I got you for this thing.
Right.
And yet he'd be sharing a little story after each one of these guys. And at the end of the night, Ma and I were staying with Jim and Stacy at their place, and I said, how do you do this? And he said, well, whenever I hire somebody, I tell them the first skill I want you to learn. I don't want you to learn how to feed or do this or blah, blah, blah. I want you to learn how to remember someone's name.
Yeah.
And they're kind of going, oh, okay. And so he said, within the first 60 seconds of meeting someone new, you have to repeat their name 3 times.
Right.
And he said, it's not a guarantee, but it's a lot better than kind of going.
It gets you a little closer.
It gets you a little bit closer, right. So anyway, but that's tough. I mean, I've been in that situation too where, you're the new guy in the block, new job, and everyone wants to meet you, and everyone's excited to meet you, and you go, hi, and you're kind of going, this is like an avalanche of,
And everybody calls you by your name. Hey, Brent, gosh, great. Hey, Brent. Hey, Brent. Hey, Brent. And you're going, okay,
what's
great.
going on?
Gears are spinning. I got nothing here.
That's good. Well, listen.
Anyway,
congrats.
It was a great evening, and hopefully the weather's going to cooperate today. It's a little overcast, but if we don't get any rain, then we're hoping that we're going to get out there and test the grass a little bit tomorrow.
Cool.
Anyway.
Well, listen, guys. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us today. Another episode of Gold Ball Hunting. Yesterday, we had Erica Smith, one of my old-time friends from the Brooklyn Tennis Club, and one of your students. She filled in admirably for you yesterday.
Nice.
And that was good. And I thought it was really a great topic, about how do you sort of handle that situation where you start off the match and you're just playing like dog poo-poo. You're just you're just going, wait a minute, have I ever played tennis before? And so we had a great discussion on that. So guys, if you've not listened to that episode, I think it's episode number 132. Go back and listen to it. And so before we get into today's topic, which is kind of I saw a match yesterday. A friend of mine play a match yesterday over at the Pacific Coast, the Brooklyn Tennis Club. I was just scratching my head the whole time going, what? What? Anyway, but before we get into that, Jeff, you and I are still offering a free coaching call, private free coaching call. It's only 10 minutes. So you got to bring that one thing in your game right now that you are struggling with. You cannot quite figure out whether it's stroke technique, whether it's strategy tactics, maybe it's a mental little issue that all of us seem to have some little mental issue going on. And that, again, it's free, it's private, and 3 of us get in a conference call. Go over to goldballhunting.com, drop in a first name, email address, and you'll get access to our online calendar scheduler where you can cherry pick a date and time that works best for you. If you're already on our email list somewhere in any emails we send out somewhere, I can't tell you off the top of my head, but somewhere in there's a link that will take you to the online calendar scheduler, and we'll get set up. So, watching a good friend of mine play, I don't know what round it was for him yesterday, but he's a good player. I mean, he's a solid 5-0 guy, and it was in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
So, not a young age group, but not where I'm at. Kind of a real super senior age group. And this guy's kind of transformed his game, which I think a lot of players do around that age. I'd say in his 50s, he really transformed his game into much more of a modern game. I mean, he's full semi Western on that forehand. Sometimes he may go even a little further. And he goes kind of full Eastern on that one-handed backhand, beautiful backhand. But one thing, he was playing a guy who was just a beast on the other side.
Right.
And just crushing forehands and back, just ripping the ball as hard as he could. And he was probably a good, Jeff, I don't know, 5-7 feet back behind the baseline. And
well, you can rip from back there, right?
You can rip from back there. For sure. And my guy, my buddy's in great shape. I mean, this guy is like, there's not an ounce of fat on that boy's frame at all. His opponent, who was gripping and ripping from back there, not quite the same level of fitness as my buddy. And the reason I want to remain nameless on this thing, if that's okay, just because who knows. I don't need some lawsuit out there going, hey guys, you're disrespecting me. Okay. Anyway, so all I'm seeing are these heavy top spins from my buddy, from a guy that you know well too. Heavy topspin forehand, heavy topspin backhand. And like we were joking before we started the recording, man, the ball would leave his racket just like nasty. And it would get about over to the net. And some of the nastiness would start to dissipate. And then by the time it got to his opponent, who was way back there, 3 revolutions, 2 revolutions.
Right.
And it was almost, like a knuckleball by the time it got to this guy. So 2 things I want to talk about today. Number 1 would be if you're playing with too much, or if you're playing with a steady diet of topspin on both forehand and backhand, is it possibly, over the course of your match, kind of draining your own fuel tank?
Yeah.
Right? And I think a lot of guys are teaching heavy topper without the thought that, look, if you're going to do this and you're going to compete, you better be in unbelievable shape. I mean, unbelievable. And I'm not talking, oh, well, gee, I lost 5 pounds in the last 2 months. No.
Yeah, no, this is cardio induced. You better, because in order to produce that, you've got to be, your spacing, and really it comes down to the preparation, which costs fuel. Early, really good, aggressive prepreration is burning fuel. So.
Well, I mean, if you're locked into that grip, if you're locked in any form of even a full-blown Eastern forehand grip, you're right. You've got to have the right spacing consistently because it's hard to kind of, do something. If the ball's not quite where you want it, I'm not saying it's not a way to hit the tennis ball, but footwork, man, you better.
Right.
And so here's the other thing I saw though yesterday, and I saw him and our friend got beat yesterday soundly, and at least according to the scores. And he asked me, he said, well, what do you think? And I said, man, all you were doing is forcing your guy, who was way back there, to have to move a few feet to his right and a few feet to his left. Right. And I said, look, you're the guy who's in shape, and you're not actually taking fuel out of him who's not in great shape. And I said, what would be the one spot of the court that you never made him visit? He goes, you mean the drop shot? I just took the microphone and went,
boom, light bulb.
So I think I really and I said, look, even if you don't win every one of the droppers, I said you're doing two things. Number one is you're taking fuel out of the guy's tank now,
Right.
and now he's actually got to honor that by playing closer, if not on
Right.
top of the baseline, maybe half a foot
Right.
inside the baseline, and now this heavy topper you're throwing in,
Right.
that's a different deal.
Right.
From
Now you
where
can get it
you've
up
made
around
him
it.
play.
Yeah. Now you can get it up around his eyeballs and make him, because that burns fuel when you got to work the ball up above your shoulder line or up in there. It's a lot of energy, a lot of fuel you got to burn to handle a ball like that. To hit back a ball that's heavy enough and that you feel like you're actually still putting authority on the ball. So yeah, you've got to change the dynamic about what's going on. And I think the biggest thing is are you noticing the reality of what is actually happening? Right? Did you
exactly
notice?
Right.
Did you notice that he actually pitched a tent 12 feet behind the baseline, and
Yeah.
he's got a little campfire going, and he's just hanging out, and you're just whacking balls,
Yeah.
thinking that you're gonna out slug the guy.
Yeah.
And you got to know, is that really in your wheelhouse? Is that something that you do? Are you a Joe Frazier where you're just going to get in there and take the pummeling and just keep dishing it out? And is that your style of play, right? And obviously, it wasn't.
Well, look, I mean, and if you're playing against a guy whose strategy is, I'm just going to hit the living crap out of every ball, and
Right.
I know I'll miss a few, but I don't care how big your topper is in the 60s. Eventually, I'm going to get something, and I'm going to bang one in the corner. It's going to be a flat out winner. Sorry,
Right.
or
Right.
I'm going to shank one somewhere, and it's going to just be
Right.
going to be a nasty, ugly thing. And so we were talking to someone the other day, one of our coaching or one of our students, about the definition of an all-court player.
Right.
And most players think, well, the definition of an all-court player is that I visit all parts of the court comfortably, right?
Right.
The real definition is, can you actually make the guy over there
Here.
visit all parts of the court?
Right.
And so
it's both sides of the net. I mean, that's it. An all-court player has the ability to visit his own side of the court wherever
Right.
he needs to be, but he also has the ability to deliver the package to all these different zip codes on the other side of the net. I mean, you got to be able to do it.
Yeah. So guys, I guess the point Jeff and I want to get across today is those two things. Number one is that you got to make your guy. You got to make your guy. Just learn to hit a drop shot. All right, let's just say it like it is. Learn to hit a freaking drop shot. And then number two, make sure that if you are a big time topper guy, that you're spending a lot of time in the gym, man. You're spending a lot of time in the gym. You're spending a lot of time running up the hill somewhere. You're doing a lot of stair work. You're doing a lot of sprint work. I mean, you are fit as a fiddle. And if you don't have those two things, you might want to try a little different deal.
I think we're going to add one thing to this thing too. Is that is your because we were kind of talking a little bit about this before we started today. Is your ego, pride, affecting and actually creating the blind spot for you that you're so emotionally attached to how you play and that you're going to beat this guy on his terms, rather than actually finding the solution for that day, and you got to put your ego and pride in a mayonnaise jar and put it up on the shelf for the day when you go out to play your match. And really, are you a solution-based player? And so obviously our friend there, just totally blind to the reality of what was going on.
Yeah.
And finding a solution that day, because that's the deal. I mean, every day is the solution today isn't necessarily the solution tomorrow, but you've got to be able to have, some clarity, punch through your own ego and get some clarity about seeing the reality of what's happening during your matches and see where, this is where I could actually improve a little bit. And maybe I should let go of this thing that I think is being effective, but maybe it's really not. It's actually, I can't play the same way against everybody, because at some point I'm going to play somebody that does what I'm doing better.
Yeah.
And now I'm just feeding the guy.
Well, and I think sometimes we think that, well, whatever I do, whatever is my plan A, all right, well, against this guy, I can see I've got to actually go to A plus 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 plus.
Right. Same plan, only harder.
only the level that I've never played at before. I mean, maybe once in a while you ding one and it's crazy, but can you do that consistently? Don't be blind to that thinking that, well, that's what I have to do. So, all right, Jeff, well, listen, good stuff, man. I know you're busy.
Right on.
Appreciate the time. And quick reminder, again, free private coaching call, 10 minutes, short time frame. So bring that one thing in your game that's a little something, stick in the spokes.
Stick in the spokes.
Yes, all right. Yeah. And go over to goalballhunting.com first. Is that the thing? Stick in the spokes?
Stick in the spokes.
Okay.
What does that do when you're riding a bike? You jam a stick in the spokes. It kind of
stops everything. You go flying over the handlebars, and it's not a pretty sight. Right. Goalballhunting.com. First name, email address. Click the button, and you'll get access to our online calendar where you can cherry pick the date and time that works best for you. So, Jeff, you're probably so tired from last night you can't remember because Eric and I couldn't really. We tried to remember what does Jeff do here at the end of every one of the episodes.
Right.
So
whatever it is, right? Yeah, I'll remember. Yeah, last night was I think it was about 1:30 a.m. I finally got
Attaboy. Good.
So I'm running on fumes today a little bit, so I'm glad it's actually kind of quiet today.
Okay.
Anyway, like us, share us, please subscribe, and let us know what you think down below.
Guys, thanks again for hanging out with us today. Get out there today, help someone else have a spectacular day. Jeff, I think we'll find a way to do this again tomorrow.
I'm looking forward to it.